Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, and I haven't really done videos on each individual episode like I did more of these community posts on these, but I just saw the finale of Chucky Season 3, and I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit disappointed. I was playing around with the idea of actually doing a video, kind of like overviewing the entire series, but there's just too much for me to talk about in just the finale alone, um, which have to have spoilers in them. So I decided, like, you know what, I'm just gonna do a video on the finale instead of a post. I will admit there are some parts of the finale that I liked, but for the most part, there were a lot of scenes that I didn't like, especially during the final 15-20 minutes. Um, like there were some parts that I really liked, and then there were some parts that I just didn't like at all, and then other parts that I thought were a good idea but were terrible at execution, if that makes sense. So I guess I'm gonna get right into it. Like starting off in this episode, it picks up on Tiffany Valentine, or Jennifer Tilly's, execution. And I mean, everybody knew what was going to happen, that Tiffany would find some way to either get out of it or come back to life or something. And that happens when one of the guards that Tiffany turned into like a voodoo doll slave breaks into the execution chamber, kills everyone in there, including the priest, and then frees her. And Nika chases after her, and obviously Tiffany escapes, because the guards end up staging like a huge breakout where they end up killing the guards that aren't being controlled by Tiffany, and Tiffany ends up getting away, leaving Nika like on the prison grounds. So that cuts to Jake Wheeler getting that drug that basically medically kills him or stops his heart, so that he ends up in the spirit realm like for like 5 minutes, because I think the Secret Service agent, or whoever it was, Price, said that if he's under longer than 5 minutes, like, he'll suffer permanent brain damage. So effectively, Jake kills himself, ends up in the spirit realm, encounters his dad, which this is one of the only parts that I liked from beginning to end, where they brought back Jake's dad, again played by Devon Sawa. And honestly, that whole sequence where Jake's father basically tries to beat the crap out of Jake with a baseball bat, because a whole thing about season 1 was about Jake's father like not accepting him because of his sexuality. And in this finale, they drive that point home again, because they have like the spirit version of his father still not really accepting him, until Jake forgives him for everything that he did when he was alive. And again, like I said, this is one of the only things that I liked the idea, and I liked the execution. Honestly, if anything, when Devon Sawa was actually chasing Jake throughout that little maze of sorts, he actually seemed a bit more intimidating than Chucky, which that might be a little bit out there, but like I could definitely see Devon Sawa playing like a horror movie character. But anyway, so after that little sort of subplot wraps up with Jake forgiving his father, and Devon Sawa warning him that even though they made up, like, he's still going to lose against Chucky because Chucky's more powerful than ever. basically basically it's what Obi-Wan Kenobi said in Star Wars about like, if you strike me down, I'll become more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Like, that's the first thing that I thought of. So Jake comes face to face with Chucky, who is finally back to playing a human version of himself, played by Brad Dourif, and he comes in on Brad Dourif, like, just basically using the Force and assembling this doll made of bones. And this is the first time that this is the first instance that I noticed a recurring trend in this episode, that the CGI is bad in this. Like, the bones looked like too shiny, I guess you could say. Like, they looked like poorly rendered graphics from a video game, like just constantly swirling around and everything, until it just assembles into this like macabre doll that Jake originally made in the very first episode of the series. So then Jake and Chucky start to talk to each other. Jake stabs him with a knife, which Chucky stabs him back, which I'm not sure why Jake thought that would work, since they're both dead. So then Chucky takes him into into basically a movie theater that he calls the Dollhouse, which, again, another one of the things that I liked about this, that they had this whole clip show from various moments throughout both the TV series and the films of like Chucky's life, and like the kills that he accumulated. Like, they showed the kills that he did, like when he was like a toddler and that teen. And they also showed Chucky killing Tiffany back from Bride of Chucky. They even showed the scene where Charles Lee Ray got gunned down in the toy store at the beginning of the very first film. And not only are the old man Chucky and Jake there, but also like basically every separate iteration of Chucky throughout the series. Like, they had the strong buff Chucky, the Marlon Brando version of Chucky, the one that was supposed to parody I think his name was Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now. They had that version of him. They had the good Chucky, as they called him in season 2. And of course, they had the taller Chucky, the teenager Chucky, the adult pre-doll Chucky that's played by Fiona Dourif, and of course, old man Chucky. And again, I thought that whole sequence was great. Maybe a little bit of fan service, since it basically went through all the eras of the Child's Play franchise. But other than that, I thought it was really cool. The only part that I didn't really like was the fact that, unlike in the season 1 flashbacks, when Fiona Dourif did play Charles Lee Ray, they dubbed Brad Dourif's voice over her lines. Here, unfortunately, they don't, and well, her impersonation is, for lack of a better phrase, it's too high pitched. Like, it sounds too much like when Chucky possessed Nika's body back during Cult in the first 2 seasons of the show. And again, I get that Fiona Dourif is literally playing the younger version of Charles Lee Ray, but I don't understand why they didn't just AD Brad Dourif's lines over her voice like they did in the first season. Anyway, which I'll get more into that later. Because there is something that makes me think about that later in the episode. But anyway, so while they're watching that clip show, the good Chucky runs out of the movie theater because he seems terrified and everything. Jake goes after him, while the old man Chucky and Fiona Dourif's Charles Lee Ray are arguing with each other. And again, another small scene that I thought was great and hilarious. It's kind of weird that I keep thinking about these other properties that aren't even related to horror, but seeing Brad Dourif and his daughter arguing with each other kind of reminded me of that one Justice League episode where the Justice League Batman meets Batman Beyond and like the old man Bruce Wayne, and they find out that they actually butt heads over how they do things in the future, such as like interrogating a low-level thug to find out where the bad guy is. But anyway, it's just little bits of that I really liked. But anyway, so eventually Jake finds good Chucky like hiding in this bedroom of sorts, and like tries to coax him into basically killing himself, because somehow that will kill Chucky for good. Which I don't know if they're trying to say that the rules in the spirit realm are different than the real world, because what I remember in the first 2 seasons of Chucky, that not only did it not work if you kill one Chucky, like all the other ones will be fine, but also like they all had like separate personalities and like different thought processes, if that makes sense. Like they didn't all have like a hive mind, where I honestly don't think, I truly don't think that even if good Chucky killed himself, I don't think that would have killed off all of them, because again, like in the first 2 seasons, like even if you killed one version of Chucky, like there were like 3, 4, 5 other dolls that were still kicking around, right? So anyway, Jake gets so close to getting good Chucky to kill himself when he finds out that's all a ruse, right? That good Chucky and all the other versions of Chucky were just there to distract Jake. And before I go further, one other thing I'm gonna bring up that's the main thing that I despise in this episode, which again, going back from towards the beginning of the episode with Brad Dourif like basically assembling those bones, the CGI is awful in this episode in particular, but in the last few episodes, like that scene in the bedroom where Jake is talking with good Chucky and all those other versions of Charles Lee Ray show up to basically tell good Chucky, like, no, if you kill yourself, you kill all of us, which again, I don't think that's how it would work, given how it worked in the real world. But I don't know. And also, actually, speaking of that, no, it also didn't really make sense to me. Now that I think of it, like, I just thought of this while making this video, like, Jake already tried to stab old man Chucky and it didn't work, so what? I'm curious what makes him think that if good Chucky kills himself, that will work, since, again, all of them are already dead, so I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't think they completely thought this through. But anyway, so all the versions of Charles Lee Ray go into the bedroom and they convince good Chucky not to kill himself. And when that happens, there's another instance where the CGI is just awful. Like, with the human characters of, like, the toddler Charles Lee Ray, the teenager Charles Lee Ray, the Fiona Dourif adult Charles Lee Ray, old man Chucky, and and even good Chucky to an extent, it looks okay. But then when like the Colonel Kurtz Chucky and the buff strongman Chucky show up, like it was obvious that they used green screen for that. You could even see like the green edges on like the outlines of those two Chucky dolls, and even a little bit on the good Chucky doll. Like, and the whole time I was thinking like, what is this? Why is Chucky using this much green screen? And I know in the behind the scenes that that they did have people in green screen actually like actually move the Chucky doll around, but they had it blended in well. Like the behind the scenes video that I saw recently was the one where where the decrepit Chucky kills the president by gouging his eyes out, and they actually showed that it was people in green screen costumes. But the thing is, like, that actually looked pretty good, which I'm going to credit the fact that the lighting was pretty dark when it happened, because in the bedroom scene, like, the lights are pretty bright. Like, it's a very light blue, and that might be the reason why. Like, you can clearly see the green screen edges on the buff Chucky and the Colonel Kurtz Chucky, especially since he has a bald head. But I don't know, it just looked so bad, and it just took me out of the show. But anyway, so good Chucky doesn't kill himself. He reveals what basically everybody knew ever since season 2, that there's no such thing as a good Chucky. He was just faking it. I mean, good Chucky killed that one girl, Nadine, I think. But anyway, so good Chucky doesn't kill himself. He reveals to Jake that like they were just a distraction, so that the real Chucky, as in the old man Chucky, that's actually played in live action by Brad Dourif, that he was just buying himself time so that he could possess Jake's body. Which, again, another great idea, which I'll get into that in a minute. So anyway, Jake arrives too late to stop Chucky from possessing his body. And then now Chucky possessed Jake and wakes up, embraces Devin and Lexi. And that's when they find out that that the agent guy, Price, he set up bombs in the White House to basically kill everybody inside. And again, just like in the post I made back from episode 7, I think his character got rushed in the final 2 episodes, where like during the first 5 or 6 episodes, yeah, he seemed a bit like cold to the events happening, but he also seemed to do what he felt was right for like the country as America, like covering up the deaths in the White House to like prevent a mass panic about what would the public think if they learned that the president and most of his security and his aides and the vice president and everyone like just spontaneously died in the White House by some kind of political assassin or otherwise, who is able to like just slip in and slip out whenever he pleases. Like I could see that. I could see that being his motivation. That on the reason why he would do all of those things. But by the time we get to episode 7, and especially episode 8 now, like he turns into basically a cartoon villain, where he's giddy over the president's death, and he straight up tries to murder some other guy. later in that same episode. And then in the finale, he tries to blow up the White House. And aside from the fact that I feel like his little villain arc was rushed a bit, I feel like his whole like bad guy turn was just unnecessary as a whole. Like we already got Chucky, a supernatural doll, and we got Tiffany, and then we got Caroline, and we probably are gonna get Glenda from Seed of Chucky later on in season 4 if they get a season 4. That's basically 4 villains right there. Why do we need a 5th villain to be basically like a side character, basically be like a side quest who has nothing to do with Chucky or Tiffany or anyone? I just don't see the reason why they made him a bad guy in the final 2 episodes. But anyway, Jake, Devin, Lexi, and Grant make it out of the White House. Along the way, Chucky possessing Jake kills the medium Timmy in the elevator. Which, going back to what I said about Brad Dourif, how he should have like AD'd the voice lines when Fiona Dourif played the younger version of himself. I swear, for about 10 minutes when Chucky's voice comes out of Jake's mouth, it sounds too perfect, like it's dubbed. And I don't know if it actually was or if it wasn't, because I know later in the episode it's obvious that the actor Zachary Arthur is doing his version of Chucky, which honestly sounds pretty good. But during that scene in the elevator when he's beating the crap out of Timmy, which, by the way, the death scene I thought was pretty cool, where it actually like showed a first-person perspective of Timmy looking up at Jake as Chucky was beating him. That part was cool, but whenever like he's speaking and it's Chucky's voice, it just sounds too perfect, and I don't know if it was with my TV or just what I was seeing, but it actually looked like the voice was dubbed and it wasn't dubbed perfectly. So again, if it turns out that was Zachary Arthur's impression, then kudos to him, but to me it just sounded too much like Brad Dourif to be the actor, at least for that one scene. And if I am right that they did dub Brad's voice over Zachary Arthur's lines, then again it begs the question, why didn't they do that with Fiona Dourif during the dollhouse scene? But I don't know, like I said, I could be wrong on that. I could have been hearing something else entirely. But moving on, once they escape the White House, and by the way, another thing with the CGI is the light, not exactly CGI, but the lighting looks a bit off in some scenes. Like when they're outside of the White House and Jake is joining Devin and Lexi, for some reason it looks like Jake specifically is in front of a green screen. It doesn't look like that for Lexi and Devin, even though it did look like that when they were actually in the White House and it was on fire. Which, speaking of, that's the fakest CGI fire that I've seen in a long time in any movie or TV show. I know I've made a joke that this show is basically like an R-rated CW show, but that whole sequence where the White House blows up and there's fire running along the corridors and everything, and it has those close-ups of Jake and Lexi and the president's son Grant. Like, it really does look like CW levels of CGI here. And the weird part is I have seen the CGI of CW shows look better in some instances. Not all of them, obviously. The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow and Arrow come to mind on some of the worst CGI I've seen from those shows. But sometimes the CGI really was better. Which just sounds wrong to even say that. But anyway, again, just another reason why the CGI just sucks in this episode in particular, but throughout this season in particular. Anyway, moving on from all of that. So Jake meets up with Lexi and Devin, and he reveals that he knows where Lexi's sister Caroline is. And they go to this old mansion where Jake somehow knows the code, which, yes, to be fair, it is Chucky possessing him. They go into the mansion and they find that it's run by this old man named Wendell Wilkins, who is played by John Waters, the same actor as the paparazzi photographer from Seed of Chucky, the guy who has acid melt half his face off. And they find out that that he has all of these dolls in his house, but not just that he collects dolls, he creates them, because he was the original creator of the good guy. And his whole backstory is that his son got killed back in 1983, and that inspired him to create the Good Guy doll to bring laughter to children all over the world, because he couldn't hear his own child's laughter anymore. And then there's that big reveal where Caroline is with Wendell Wilkins. Both of them worship Damballa, who is Chucky's master. And that's when Jake reveals that he's possessed by Chucky, which I think it's I think that's about time for me to mention two things that I didn't really like in this episode. Like, one, when Zachary Arthur plays himself being possessed by Chucky, it's great. But when it's himself possessed by Chucky, but he has to act like Jake still, it just sounds too on the nose and corny. And I honestly think that, like, the minute he started talking and doing things that were obviously out of character for Jake, Devin and Lexi should have immediately picked up on that. Like, they might not be experts on the spirit realm like Timmy is, but I'm pretty sure that, seeing as how that by now they have seen Chucky possess other people, not just dolls. Like back during season 2 when he possessed Devin Sawa's priest character, like they should know that if someone's acting out of character, they're most likely possessed by Chucky. I mean, even Devin met Nika when she was possessed by Chucky. So he should know better, at the very least, even if Lexi didn't. But so that's strike number one. That I think that Zachary Arthur pretending to be Jake while being possessed by Chucky, I just thought that it was overacting at that point. Like a better example of this that comes to mind is when Fiona Dourif, back during episode 5 of the show, like regained consciousness as Nika, but she still had to pretend to be possessed by Chucky. Like, that small scene was better than the 10 minutes of Jake being possessed by Chucky, but also like trying to disguise himself as still being Jake, if that makes sense. And then the second thing that I didn't really like about this whole subplot, which I've kind of already spoiled it, is that whole segment is only about 10 minutes long. Like, Jake gets possessed by Chucky, they leave the White House, they go to Wendell Wilkins' house, and then Caroline performs a ritual to have Chucky's soul transferred back into like a good guy doll, which is the original, very first like prototype good guy doll that Wendell Wilkins created. Which that in and of itself is cool, but the part that I don't really like is, again, the fact that Jake being Chucky was only 10 minutes long. Like, they could have at least expanded on that into an entire episode. But anyway, so Chucky goes back to being a doll, and Jake, Devin, and Lexi do nothing to at least try to stop him. I get that, like, John Waters' character and Caroline had weapons trained on them, but come on, they didn't even try to fight. So then, after Chucky starts talking crap to Jake and Devin, Wendell Wilkins reveals what he's going to do with the kids. And then it cuts to Tiffany showing up at the mansion. She and Chucky make up. Wendell Wilkins reveals that he has the prototype version of the original Tiffany doll, or the Belle doll, as it was called in season 2. I can't remember exactly when Chucky and Tiffany made up. I mean, I know they had that phone call back in episode 5 of the 3rd season. And I guess you could see it as a similar dynamic to, like, the Joker and Harley Quinn. But, I don't know, again, I just felt that was too rushed. So anyway, Chucky and Tiffany just start making fun of the kids and their predicament, which they don't reveal until the final couple minutes. So I'll get into that soon. But anyway, so Chucky and Tiffany make up. Tiffany transfers her soul back into the Tiffany doll off screen. And then Caroline starts driving them away. Meanwhile, somehow Nika followed them because somehow she stuck a tracker onto Tiffany. I really want to say that what actually happened was that she put a tracker onto Tiffany's car, and the reason why I say that is because, like, one, it feels like the only explanation, because how and when would Nika have time to put a tracker onto like Tiffany herself, especially since she was in prison, and the only time that she wasn't in prison was when she was let out. And the second reason is a real world example, is that I remember watching the news like a couple months back, and there was this story going around about how people could use these Apple tags to basically stalk you and other people. And the way they did it was that they would stick the Apple tags like on, like, say, the underside of someone's car, or like behind the wheel well of the tires and stuff like that, or slip them into someone's purse, like just really weird stuff like that. And that's how they could track you and stalk you. I seriously doubt that. I seriously doubt that the TV show is gonna do exactly that, but I do think that that's how Nika put a tracker on Tiffany. Whereas instead of putting it on Tiffany herself, she put it on Tiffany's car. That's the only logical explanation that would make sense to me. But anyway, so while Caroline drives Tiffany's car off, um, Nika goes into the mansion, and she finds the kids. Oh my god, they're they're knockoff Barbie dolls with their human faces like superimposed on them in the weirdest way possible. Like, again, the CGI is so bad here. Like, it just looks awful. Like, the marionette dolls that the kids are in, they physically look okay, but their faces just look awful. Like, just uncanny valley awful. And I just don't understand why they use so much CGI in this. So, and right before I finish this, again, going with the CGI, I don't understand why they use so much CGI for this film. Like, I get it, like moving the doll around in well lit areas. I can get behind that. They've done that at the very least ever since Cult of Chucky, so I get that. But having CGI for like backgrounds, digital fire, superimposing the kids' faces onto dolls, doing poor green screen for the dolls that were in that bedroom where Good Chucky was in. I don't know. It was just so bad. Like, there's only one other instance of a horror movie or show that I can remember off the top of my head that has done CGI this badly, and it was Jeepers Creepers Reborn, which I do have a review coming out for that in a couple months, but I'm not going to spoil that one just yet. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but horror movies in general should not have a lot of CGI, especially slasher movies like Chucky or Jason or Michael Myers. For like the only like original slasher movie that I could see having CGI would be Nightmare on Elm Street, and that's only if the CGI is done right. Like, I'm not talking about the CGI crap fest that was the remake. Like, because CGI is supposed to like enhance the film. It's not supposed to. It's not supposed to create entire scenes when while the person is just like on a green screen. And that's like the main problem that people have had with Marvel these days, where like you see the behind the scenes stuff like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, or Spider-Man, or like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and you see the behind the scenes videos of those, and it's literally just the actors in mocap suits against like a green or blue screen. And honestly, like practical effects are always going to reign supreme. So I just don't understand the creative decision to use so much CGI in these last couple episodes, especially in the finale. But anyway, I'm done talking about CGI now, because after Nika finds the kids, Wendell Wilkins appears, like has a gun to Nika's head, and that's on a cliffhanger. And then the final scene is Caroline driving Tiffany's car away while Chucky and Tiffany are making out in the back seat. And that's how the season ends. Might even be how the show ends. I don't know. But part of me kind of likes that they ended it like that to basically set up another fourth season possibly, or another movie. But part of me also kind of hates it because, again, just like in Cult of Chucky, just like in Cult of Chucky, Charles Lee Ray won, and like the status quo is reversed. Well, sorry, it's back to status quo. Because like Chucky and Tiffany are back as dolls. They're on the run. Like it's basically the same song and dance that they did ever since basically like Bride and Seed of Chucky. The only real difference is that like unlike all the other, unlike the original installments where like the good guys win and Chucky's defeated, like he's still out there somewhere. So like they're obviously setting up a future film or season. I think Don Mancini said that he was planning on both a season 4 and a tie-in movie, so we'll see how that goes. But honestly, with them constantly like doing cliffhangers, I just don't know how they're going to finally end this series, because I think it was just last week or something, at the time of me recording this, that Brad Dourif said that except for Chucky, he's retired from acting. And while that's a good thing for the Chucky series, that's also a clear indicator that like that Brad Dourif is getting too old for this. Like, yeah, he'll keep on voicing Chucky, but eventually, unfortunately, he is going to pass away. So I feel like they should wrap up the original franchise at some point, or do some kind of thing where like where they find someone who can do a damn good voice impression of him, or pass the torch and have some other actor do it. But I don't know, if they don't do that, if they do eventually wrap up the franchise, hell, if they do a season 4 of the show, I think they should bring back Andy and Kyle, or at the very least Andy, because back during season 2, like I mean, even before the season 2 finale aired, like I already figured that Chucky was gonna find some way to come back for that final episode, meaning that what some people were saying was the perfect send-off for Andy and Kyle was just false and hollow, because, well, as the finale revealed, it wasn't Chucky, it was his doctor, Dr. Mixter, who was in the Chucky doll when Andy killed her. So to have them be sent off, like, basically riding into the sunset, and they even replayed the ending of Child's Play 2, again, it just feels like, well, they went out believing a lie that Chucky was dead for good. And I mean, at the very least, like it made national news when that one Secret Service agent died in the very first episode, and like they showed the president's younger son carrying the Chucky doll with him. So unless if they weren't near a TV, then Andy and Kyle definitely should have known that Chucky was still kicking around, and he was in the White House just killing people left and right. So I don't know, they should definitely bring Andy and Kyle back for season 4, because aside from the fact that, again, their victory was kind of hollow at the end of season 2, I don't see how exactly the kids and Nika are gonna get out of that situation with the good guy doll creator, because unless if they explicitly stated this in the episode, I'm pretty sure it wasn't Wendell Wilkins who put the kids' souls into dolls. I'm pretty sure that it was either Chucky or Caroline, because they're the ones who know about voodoo and everything. But going forward, I hope they bring back Andy, and hopefully they bring back Kyle. Hell, bring back all the survivors. Like bring back Jesse and Jade and Tyler, because I'm pretty sure that the actor who played Tyler in Child's Play 3, I'm pretty sure he said that he wanted to be in the Chucky show. But yeah, bring those guys back. Bring back his mom, Karen Barkley. Bring back Mike Norris. Basically, bring back everyone who survived Chucky. Just have them all come back, and have them finally kill Chucky and Tiffany once and for all. Like, that would be a great way to end the franchise for good. Because honestly, like, then this series is starting to run its course. Like, there's not much else that Chucky can do that that to me would still make him serious. I mean, like, the whole season of him being in the White House to begin with was, if it wasn't for the scenes where they actually played it straight, it would have been laughable to me about him getting into the White House. And yes, I know that they explained back during the 3rd episode that, like, that he went through a metal detector and a Secret Service agent saw the skeleton, like, just commented about, like, how realistic it looked. When in reality, like, I'm pretty sure that a Secret Service agent would take one look at the fact that that the doll has a skeleton, and he'd think, and like, they'd immediately start to search the doll. Because, like, what dolls out there have a skeleton in real life? And I don't know. I just feel like the White House would be more guarded for that. But anyway, there's not much else that they can do and still stay serious. Like, because I don't want to see Chucky go into space. I don't want to see him, like, meet Mathregan or Freddy Krueger or anything. Like, we've already had Freddy vs. Jason. I don't need to see a crossover between Freddy Krueger and Chucky, because apparently that was another idea that Don Mancini had. Like, I don't want to see Chucky in space. I've seen Jason X, and I've seen parts of Leprechaun 4. That's basically a franchise killer to send them into space. I don't need to see him cross over with other horror movie characters, and I don't want to see him partner up with a doll that's basically a pale imitation of himself. So, just going forward, they should just bring everybody back, kill them off before Brad Dourif himself dies, and just go out on a high note. So, to wrap it all up, the season itself was alright. The premise itself, I thought, was a bit ridiculous, although they did have some good moments when they actually, like, treated it seriously. Some parts were good, some parts were bad. I didn't care about the teen drama, but I did kind of like the whole presidential and political stuff that they had in there. And the kills were great, as always. The title cards were awesome. I just feel like ultimately the main problem with the season and, like, the series as a whole is that they try to cram in too much in just 8 episodes. Like, I feel like they need to have, like, an expanded season, like, say 10, maybe 13 episodes. I think that should be enough, because, like, again, going back to Jake being possessed by Chucky, they could have expanded that into a whole season. No, sorry, that's a lie. They could have expanded that into an entire episode. Same thing with Wendell Wilkins being the creator of the Good Guy dolls. They could have expanded that into an entire episode. They didn't. I mean, so far, one of the things they got right was the whole thing with the spirit realm, and that one more or less took almost 2 episodes. Well, like an episode and a half. But you guys are getting the point. Like they need to expand each season to be longer. That way, like whatever ideas that Don Mancini has, like he doesn't have to rush through them. Like we already saw it in season 2 when they would literally introduce a new Chucky doll and then kill him off by the end of the episode. And like again in season 3, like they rushed the whole thing about Chucky dying and going to the spirit realm, possessing Jake, finding the creator of the good guy dolls. All of that stuff could have been padded out to like 2, 3, 4 episodes. But that's all my thoughts on this season. If they make a 4th season, I'll probably watch it because Chucky is one of my favorite franchises in horror. But I just hope to God that they take it more serious than they have for seasons 2 and 3. Anyway, that's it for me, and I'll see you guys in the next review. Bye, everyone.